Have you ever felt like the world is just changing way too fast? Like your organization or your community is always just trying to keep up but never quite getting ahead? Well, if that sounds familiar, you're not alone. In this explainer, we're going to dive into the work of Dr. Mohamed Buheji to figure out how to thrive in a world of constant, unpredictable change. Okay, let's get into it. Dr. Buheji kicks things off with this amazing metaphor. And really, it's a call to action, isn't it? It's this idea that playing it safe, staying comfortable in the harbor, that's not the point. Real progress, the stuff that actually matters, well, that happens when we find the courage to actually leave the harbor and sail right into the choppy waters of the unknown. And believe me, those waters are choppy. We're all trying to navigate this massive storm of volatility, right? Political shifts cause economic chaos, which then sparks social upheaval, and it all feeds into each other. In this kind of world, the old maps are basically useless. And clinging to them, that's not just standing still, it's like actively drifting towards a waterfall.
I bet this scene feels pretty familiar. You're running as fast as you can, putting out fires left and right just to stay in the exact same place. That's what it feels like to be stuck in a reactive cycle. We're so busy just dealing with the crisis of the day that we never actually move forward. The core problem we're talking about is how to get off this hamster wheel and actually start building something.
So, what's the way out? Well, the central idea from the book is that we need to stop thinking about change and start thinking about transformation. Now, that might just sound like words, but trust me, the difference between them is absolutely massive. Let's break it down. Change, as it's defined here, is all about reacting. A problem pops up, a dip in performance, a process breaks, and we make a change to fix it. The entire goal is just to get back to how things were, to restore that old sense of stability.
But transformation? That's a whole different ballgame. It's proactive. It's not about fixing what's broken from the past. It's about inventing a totally new future. It doesn't ask, how do we patch this up? It asks, what amazing new thing can we create from scratch?
Okay, this slide right here, this is where it all clicks. Change just tries to manage the behaviors we already have. Transformation actually creates brand new ones. But my absolute favorite analogy from the book is that last one. Change is like heating up water. It's warmer, sure, but it's still just water. Transformation, that's creating steam, a totally new state of being with the power to drive an engine. And this diagram just illustrates it perfectly. See those circular arrows down at the bottom? That's change. You're just going in a loop, fixing the current reality, patching a gap, and ending up back where you started, maybe just a little better. But transformation, look at that powerful blue arrow at the top. It's a launch. It's breaking out of that cycle completely to create a whole new future. Okay, so we get it. We need to transform, not just change. But how? What are the actual ingredients you need to pull this off? So the author gives us this really smart three-part model. For transformation to actually work, these three things have to be perfectly aligned. You've got the why, that's the vision, the reason you're doing it. Then you have the process and the methodologies, the tools you're going to use. They all have to be working together in this constant loop. A great why with a terrible process is just a daydream. And the best tools in the world with no vision, that's just busy work. Everything has to be in sync.
And here's something crucial to remember. Transformation isn't like flipping a switch. It's not one single event. It's way more organic, kind of like a wave. It starts small, almost invisible, and then it builds momentum and energy until it becomes this unstoppable force that totally reshapes the entire landscape. The trick is knowing how to start that first little ripple.
And this whole process usually follows that classic adoption curve you see here. Way over on the left, it all gets started by a few innovators, the people with the radical new ideas. Then, as the idea gets some legs, the early adopters jump in and they start to organize it. It keeps growing until finally, way over on the right, it's not a radical idea anymore. It's just the new normal. Now, this isn't just a bunch of abstract theory. The book really grounds these ideas in some powerful, real-world examples that show you exactly what this looks like in practice. So get this, because it's one of the most important lessons in the book. It's this idea of influence without power. It means that real, lasting transformation often doesn't come from the person in charge giving orders. It comes from a more subtle, spreading impact. And the perfect example is the transformation of South Africa after apartheid. Nelson Mandela's government had the official power, sure, but to heal a nation that was so deeply divided, they had to use a very different kind of influence. Just listen to this quote from Ahmed Kathrada, who was one of Mandela's close partners. It is so incredibly insightful.
They understood that transformation couldn't be a zero-sum game. Of course, they had to serve their base, the black majority that had been oppressed for generations, but at the same time, they had to convince the powerful white minority that they still had a future in the new South Africa. That delicate balance was the key to creating a new nation instead of just starting a civil war. Now that was a huge, deeply political example. But these principles aren't just for nations in crisis. They can be systematically built right into the machinery of government or any large organization, like this next example shows.
Take a look at this framework from New Zealand's government. This thing is basically a machine that's designed for continuous transformation. You can see the goal is always performance improvement. Each of those colored circles is a cycle that lasts for years. They intentionally set these huge challenges for their agencies, forcing them to adapt and learn. They're not looking for tiny improvements. They're pushing for massive leaps forward. It's a way of building a better future right into the system itself.
So, when you boil it all down, what does this all come back to? After looking at the theories, the models, the real-world examples, it all comes down to a specific way of thinking. It's all about having a mindset for the future. And this quote, which is cited in the book, just nails it. The change mindset sees a problem and asks, why is this happening? The transformation mindset sees a completely blank canvas and asks, why not create something that has never existed before? And that right there is the ultimate takeaway. We can't afford to sit around and wait for the world to calm down or for the perfect opportunity to just fall into our laps. True transformation is an act of creation. It's about having the vision and the guts to start building the future you want, right in the middle of all the chaos we're living in today.
So as we wrap this up, I want to leave you with this question. Think about your world, your company, your community, maybe even just your own life. What is the fundamental transformation that needs to happen? And more importantly, what's the very first step you're going to take to leave that harbor and start creating it?